In some way, I am following the practical guide. You received a copy of the practical guide before this meeting, and the idea, the hope from our side was that you would have taken a look at this guide and also already probably come with some pre-prepared questions. At the same time, I tried in my presentation to follow closely what Anna presented in Alexandroupolis. So these different steps she introduced about the mapping, and about which you received in Excel a monitoring table, which was to help us understand how progress was being made or not made in the case study areas. Okay, so let's see what I have here in this particular presentation is starting from the topic that was selected for the PPGIS pilot practice in Malta, and then in relation to that going through this brainstorming of which maps, which GIS data we need to collect. Also show you at which point we were using the feedback from the local think tank seminars to put them into further perspective of the PPGIS practice. Then a very specific job we had in work package 6 was to, from the GIS, move to the web GIS. Now that we couldn't do without going through a number of possible solutions. There are very many solutions. At the end, we have chosen 2 solutions for the PPGIS pilot practice in Malta. And I'm saying this because most of what I will be talking about is not meant to be understood that each case study area should be following the same approach. So be imaginative, be creative. At the end of the day, it should be useful to your case study area. But I will show from the WebGIS we created, we set up, how we came to the stage of pilot implementation in Malta. Okay, as I said, this will be followed by a specific tutorial, which Suzanne will do. Now, the topic selected for the PPGIS pilot practice in Malta, as you all know, and you have seen from the charter, Anna mentioned it, it's also on the Mare Nostrum website. So we are talking about the safeguarding and protecting the remaining open spaces in and around the Grand Harbour. How did we arrive at this topic? Well, one major input came through the interviews that were conducted by Maurice and Suzanne of about 20 stakeholders. So I can say, and this was reinforced by the first 2 think tank seminars as well, so I can say that the topic is suitable for a public participatory approach because it was really coming from the bottom up. Sorry, I should hold the mic a little bit further away, I guess. Thank you. And I think you can also intuitively understand that it is suitable for the second component, the GIS component, because we can think of these open spaces as being positioned somewhere on a map.
Sorry, Tim. Are we allowed to use a title like the one you used, safeguarding and protecting the open spaces, rather than saying what to do with the open spaces? Because safeguarding and protecting means that you are leading the public towards not using, letting them open.
Okay, so thank you. Thanks for this question. So what Anna tried to explain this morning is that one of the major concerns that came out of the stakeholder surveys is that people see overdevelopment. And there are really few remaining open spaces. Actually, in some way, I was hoping that from the boat trip yesterday, you would have had for yourself a first idea of how built up the Grand Harbour is. In my own perception, when I go on the roof of either the office or the house we live, I look at a stone forest.
Yes, but
it is totally built. And the concern of the people in the street is that they want to retain the few remaining open spaces.
But Dirk, I think you should first do your presentation and then do the discussion.
Okay,
Because
so
it will be answered here.
we look at the issue of reviewing data collection and maps, always in connection to the topic, of course, now. And, well, as an environmental research company, we have many layers of information in-house. But again, we try to make here a reflection. We are in a specific project, Mare Nostrum, and we wanted to see how far we could go without relying on information layers we have collected through other projects. So, a major source of information, digital information, is coming from the Malta Environmental and Planning Authority, MEPA. You've heard many times the reference to this authority. And we decided to purchase first a trial set and then a further complementary set so that we would cover the whole area. Another part of the existing data came from the local, or from the act that established the local councils. This act was published together with a set of maps. And so this was a basic piece of information related to the administrative boundaries of the area we are concerned with. Okay? Just to give you an idea, you have Malta here and the geographic extent of the digital data that we purchased. Okay, let's zoom. Okay, this is zoom up. We purchased point data, segment data, which on this map are shown in gray, and I have used some colors to highlight the polygon data that we could extract and are relevant to our topic. So, for example, in light blue cyan are areas that are built up, and therefore de facto not open spaces. We have also, as you have seen yesterday, a huge amount of walls, bastions. They are referred to as fortifications in our GIS, but they cover an enormous amount of area. And then in green, these are areas where, according to the Environment and Planning Authority, there is some woodland, and we also extracted from their data where there are open sports facilities. That is more or less what we could extract from the data. Okay? Yeah. If we are going to map the open spaces and we cannot get them from the MEPA data, then we will have to construct this as a new additional map through our own work in the Mare Nostrum project. Together with the characteristics of these open spaces, like in terms of their current use, their level of access, means of access. In other words, we had to brainstorm the legends we would use to characterize these open spaces. Now, starting point, what do we include as open spaces and what do we not include? Again, this was part of a brainstorming session, but we realized early on that the agricultural areas within the study area, although they are private, they are also open spaces in the context of what we are discussing. Then we have natural areas and man-made open spaces. Under natural, we have the wooded areas, shrublands, rocky beaches, sandy beaches. Man-made, we have landscape gardens, promenades, playgrounds, cemeteries, boatyards, and so on. Okay. Cool. In terms of characterizing these open spaces from a maintenance or disturbance point of view, because the word disturbance is more suitable when we are discussing the natural open spaces. So when we are discussing a woodland or a shrubland, we will look at whether it's generally undisturbed, moderately disturbed, or heavily disturbed. And in the man-made open spaces, we will look at the level of maintenance, regularly maintained, not regularly maintained, or neglected. We will see, because these are issues which were brainstorming in their own right. Access. So we have open spaces with public access, no public access, restricted hours, members only, temporarily closed. And in terms of means of access, there is on foot and by bicycle, vehicle access, and also difficult access. Okay, so these are just some of the legends we drew up to come to the characterization of the open spaces. But where are they, these open spaces? Here we use the Google Maps, Google Earth images, which we georeferenced against the MEPA data. And for example, you see again here in the same color, this light blue, the built-up areas. So those are already excluded. And it's not so clear on the slide, I'm sure at the back, but there is a brown line here and in some other places which represent the walls, bastions, and fortifications. So what remains are potential open spaces. And those were drawn, it's okay, were drawn in this reddish color. And here you see the very colorful mosaic which Caroline prepared, because she went through all the various Google Earth images. Okay, so this is our base map for the open spaces. Okay.
What are all these colors?
They are different Google Earth images to cover the whole area. Okay. Because when you georeference and the area is too large, the distortion in the corners becomes very problematic.
Like this.
So we really had to zoom in. From this preparatory work, we printed maps which would be used during the field survey, because now this has to be ground rooted, of course. And here you see an example of a printout. Again, the background shows some MEPA lines so that it's easier to identify